Good morning. Today is Monday, September 16th, and this is Wake Up with KERA News. Hi there, I'm Andrew Garcia. I hope you enjoyed your weekend. I did, but could have been a little longer, if you ask me. Temperatures are just a bit cooler today than they were over the weekend, with a high of 95 and sunny skies. Tonight it'll be mostly clear with lows in the mid-70s. Coming up later, some people mix up common over-the-counter pain relievers, ibuprofen and acetaminophen. Stay tuned to hear how doctors recommend you use each a little bit later. But first, let's get into some of today's news. Attorney General Ken Paxton withdrew a legal opinion last week that contradicts his stance against the state fair's firearm ban. In 2016, Paxton's office ruled that local governments won't face civil penalties when private businesses ban guns on government-owned property. That opinion was marked as withdrawn on Tuesday. Paxton now says the fair's new gun ban is illegal and Dallas is responsible. A judge will hear Paxton's request for an injunction on the gun ban on Thursday. A Dallas nonprofit is rolling out a new toolkit to combat housing displacement in vulnerable communities. Builders of Hope focuses on protecting residents from displacement, preserving affordable housing, and building community power. The group will host its next listening session at 5:30 tomorrow night at the West Dallas Multipurpose Center. The pain relievers acetaminophen and ibuprofen are common in over-the-counter drugs. Some people even mistake the two. But they have specific purposes and can cause problems if you're not careful. KERA Sam Baker talked about this in today's Vital Signs with Dr. David Winter, an internal medicine doctor with Baylor, Scott & White.
Aren't they both somewhat similar in that they're both pain relievers, right?
They are. They work by different mechanisms, and thus the difference. Let me also point out that ibuprofen is in the class of non-steroidal anti-inflammatory medications, which is a large group of medicines, many of those prescription, but of the ones that are non-prescription, ibuprofen is Advil. Motrin also is the same drug. And then you've got naproxen, which is a different drug. That's Aleve, and those all work like anti-inflammatory. Acetaminophen is most widely known as Tylenol. It's also in Excedrin and also in many different cough medicines. So if we're comparing, we should compare the acetaminophen type drugs to the nonsteroidal anti-inflammatory drugs.
What's the essential difference between the two?
The big difference is that the anti-inflammatory drugs fight inflammation. So if your symptoms are due to inflammation, you would do better with that. If, on the other hand, they are non-inflammatory headaches, which is the majority of them, fever, they work for that, and just general pain, either one works. Acetaminophen works, and so do the nonsteroidal anti-inflammatory medications such as ibuprofen.
If you should mix them up, though, somehow, if you use acetaminophen when you really should use ibuprofen or vice versa, what happens?
They can both work. Probably best to take them 4 to 6 hours apart. And the big thing with acetaminophen is you cannot take more than 3,000 milligrams in a 24-hour period, or your liver will suffer and can often suffer pretty greatly.
Do you think most people really get the difference between the two?
No, I see people go back and forth between them. If you've got, though, a back strain, or you strain a knee, or your shoulder gets sore, you're probably better with ibuprofen and those type of drugs. If it's a regular headache, if it's fever, then either one works well.
When should you not use ibuprofen or acetaminophen?
So the issue with the ibuprofen type drugs is they can cause kidney damage if you take them over a long period of time. And if you have kidney disease, you should not take those. At least you should get the advice of your physician. The side effect from the ibuprofen type drugs is stomach irritation. And so if you get stomach irritation, you must stop taking that medication. Otherwise, it can progress to an ulcer, even to a bleeding ulcer. In fact, it's a good idea with the ibuprofen drugs to take those with food, which can then buffer the stomach. Acetaminophen in high doses causes liver disease, and that's a big deal. Now, you can take acetaminophen for years as long as you don't go above the threshold in a day period of time, the 3,000 milligrams in a 24-hour period.
Do people confuse either or both of these with aspirin, or just decide I'll ignore those two and just take plain aspirin, not should work for anything.
Yeah, aspirin also works. It has anti-inflammatory properties, so you can take aspirin. If you take too much aspirin, you'll get ringing in your ears, and that's a temporary thing. But every medication has its limit as to how many you should take. And aspirin, you also need to limit how many of those you would take in a day.
That was Dr. David Winter, a doctor of internal medicine with Baylor, Scott & White, speaking with KERA's Sam Baker. The Cowboys looked great in Week 1, but in yesterday's home opening loss against the New Orleans Saints, they looked anything but, putting up only 19 points and allowing 44 points, the most of any team this week. And in an almost exact opposite turn of fortune, the women's soccer team Dallas Trinity FC beat last-place Lexington SC 6-2 on Friday, scoring the most goals ever in the brand-new USL Super League. And despite being eliminated from playoff contention last week, the Dallas Wings were only 1 point away from beating Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever, losing 110-109. In Blooms and Tempests, Scotty Pooley presents a solo exhibition of rich oil paintings that explore the emotional journey of human existence. The exhibition runs through September 29th at the Jeanette Kennedy Gallery on Botham Jean Boulevard. For more information and things to do, visit kera.org/calendar. Thank you for listening to Wake Up with KERA News on this Monday. I'm your host, Andrew Garcia. This show was produced and edited by Shardae White and Becca Moore. For more news in your inbox, visit kera.org/wakeup. That's where you can subscribe to the Wake Up with KERA News newsletter and get more news you need in the mornings from our colleague Catherine Hobbs. Connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, and Threads at KERATX. And of course, we'll see you tomorrow.